listening to the Pharmacy Podcast Network.
Here's a message from today's episode sponsor. This episode is sponsored by Independent Pharmacy Cooperative, widely known as IPC. Established in 1983, IPC is the nation's largest group purchasing organization owned by independent pharmacy. With a mission of maximizing the success of community pharmacists, IPC works to provide members with access to effective programs and services designed to enhance profitability for independent pharmacy. Read more about our mission by checking out our website at ipcrx.com. That's ipcrx.com.
Okay. Can you believe it's Friday already? Are you kidding me? This is starting to become disturbing. I don't know, starting to make myself sound like that old man. Just turned 50 in 6 months ago, 8 months ago, whatever. But I'm just saying, it's This Week in Pharmacy. There's a lot going on. And Asembia is getting ready. I mean, Asembia 2023 Access. We are so excited to be part of that. Pharmacy Podcast Network will be at Asembia, Vegas. That's April 30th through May 4th. If you haven't registered for the Asembia conference yet and you want to understand what's happening in the innovation of specialty pharmacy and the business of specialty pharmacy, that is a place to show up at and go. It's an amazing organization. We can't wait. Brady and I will be out there, and we're ready to interview people that are moving us forward and are doing amazing things, specifically in rare disease state support, specialty pharmacy, PBM reform. Capital RX will be on. Today's episode, we're proud to have IPC coming on. They're going to be working with Pharmacy Podcast Network through Bruce Nealon, which he's just incredible podcaster. One of my most favorite shows, Pharmacy Crossroads. Check it out, pharmacycrossroads.com. Bruce Nealon show. We're going to have on today's episode, our third guest will be IPC's CEO, Marc Essensa. And really part of the transition of what's happening in pharmacy is community pharmacy is an enormous part of it. That's today's episode is dedicated all about independent community pharmacy, specifically building cash-based programs. And I want to go to the news first because this ties into what's happening. We had Pitt right here in Pittsburgh, Prescription, a little publication within the school. And they had a biweekly blog where they're talking about how pharmacists are doing work that our public has no idea about what they're actually doing. And sure enough, they go down into the description of what is happening in some of the future of pharmacist roles expanding. And this is now being much more evident in what we're seeing happening today, especially with community pharmacy cash-based programs. So kind of ties back to that. I also want to give a shout out to our brothers and sisters over in the UK. One of their leading publications is The Chemist and Druggist. And if I've been paying attention to what's going on in the UK for some time, and they're going through similar evolutions of their pharmacists and their role of their pharmacists working with their practitioners and their physicians. And it's titled, Why I'm Optimistic About the Future of Community Pharmacy in England. This article just came out, and sure enough, they're talking about the roles of pharmacists expanding and their community pharmacies expanding. Their payment system is completely different. It's not tied into PBMs or anything like that. So If you haven't read that article, please look that up. It's an excellent article to give you, and pay attention to what's happening in the UK too, with their community pharmacy efforts. Before our special guest, which I'm so excited to have her here, Heather Harrow. But before Heather comes on, Tyson Drug Company shares its success with other community pharmacies. This is happening, people. Community pharmacy is changing. Today is about this cash-based business focus and what you can do to bring value to your community. But CPSN, this organization, which has been now around for about 10 years now, it is gaining immense amount of steam. And the members of CPSN, this is a testimonial to Tyson Drugs in Holly Springs, Mississippi, and how well they're doing in building out these medication adherence programs, and the packaging and the evidence data back to the study here at Drug Topics. Take a look at this article. Tyson Drug Company shares success with other community pharmacies. Wow. If you aren't excited about being a community pharmacy owner, you might be exhausted, but I'll tell you what, things are about to change even more so and accelerate, and you have to be committed to that change. It's not going to be easy. That's not what I'm saying, but the opportunities that are out there right now and are coming. This is why I'm excited about our first guest today, Heather Harrow from DiversityRx, the next evolution of business support programs for our community pharmacy. And they're almost like a lab where they test what works, what doesn't as community pharmacy owners, and then they basically broadcast and support those programs out through their membership. The one and only Heather Harrow, welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you here. Doing good.
Unmuting would be helpful.
There you are. There you are. Welcome to the show.
Hello, friends. How are you? I'm so happy to be here. Unmuted, able to speak.
With the Pharmacy Badass shirt on.
That's right. That's right. That's what we're creating.
Those are our favorite shirts. Second
Pharmacy
favorite.
Badasses.
US Pharmy. We have to get you one of these shirts.
Yeah, of course. Please. I will rep it proudly.
Awesome. So the news, we were talking about Tyson Drug Company sharing its success with other community pharmacies and how the clinical services that they build through some of the CPSN programs is making a difference, which is terrific. But what I'm talking about today is, imagine a community pharmacy having three core revenue streams, okay? They have their dispensing revenue streams, which are the ones being attacked and dwindling. Mm-hmm. They have their clinical services revenue streams, which is extending things like home care, specialty care in the home,
remote patient monitoring,
like all that clinical stuff. But then the third is this cash-based businesses that bring additional value to the community pharmacy, which the communities are begging for some of these services. So this is what DiversityRx does every day, day in, day out. You are this laboratory, like I was saying. I think it's a good analogy. Your guys are a laboratory to find out what works and what doesn't in community pharmacy. So if people don't know who Heather is, I want you to take time to say hi to our listeners.
Hi, friends. So my official title, my big title is CRO. However, I work primarily with, I'm lucky. I get to work with exhibitors for our Pharmacy Profit Summit, and I get to work with members on their marketing. The thing that I love so much about Tyson Drugs sharing their successes is I think that we need to do more of that and sharing exactly the strategies that help other pharmacies. So I think there's a myth or a misconception, especially when you're being beat down by something. So we all know, this is no secret, the PBMs, it feels like they're beating down on us. And so it's hard to continue that story in your head. But as more folks begin to be successful and they begin to hone in on these exact strategies and we share them, then we kind of take back our power and we can then control our destiny in our pharmacies. And that's building value for our communities.
Yep. Exactly. And I want to see things come out of this that that other pharmacy owners they're learning through your memberships, they're learning through your consultancy and some of the ideas that are coming through. I really enjoy seeing your members become speakers and then they become like testimonials to programs that they've actually helped to invent. And that's what's one of the reasons why I gravitate towards DiversityRx. You're not trying to invent everything by yourself. You're trying to find the best of the best, polish it, test it, and then get it out to other pharmacy owners so that they can start having success with these programs, overnight and immediately.
That's exactly right. I mean, we all know that independent each pharmacy is different. Even if you own multiples, that you still can't do a rinse and repeat on some things. Now, some things you can, some business rules are just business rules and you can succeed with those. But the nuances, the niches of some of these pharmacies are so different that you have to be able to create community to be able to really succeed. And I believe that the successes that our members are having and shoot, quite honestly, we pick up on other things, we can combine that all together and folks can create the programs, the strategies that are working for them. We love to share our members' successes, just like you were saying, but not just the successes. I mean, we all love the good feelings, the huggy feely, we're so positive, kumbaya feelings, yes. But I'm so proud that we get to share the strategies, the ABCs, the 1, 2, 3s of what's working and what isn't working to make these programs successful for our members.
Well, I like the whole profit forwarding ideas, which means that in order to put out a program that DiversityRx has tested and tweaked and kind of brought back with all of the brilliance and the reference, the data that comes from some of the studies that you do. So now you have these profit programs to really take us to the next step. So are you almost teaching pharmacy owners to start thinking this way? Is this part of DiversityRx, is to really kind of like reinvent the way that pharmacy owners think?
I don't know that it's a reinvention of them. I believe that it's changing mindset through action. So we're giving you the steps, our courses, programs, coaches. I can't say enough about our coaches, are teaching folks to have success through execution, not just mindset. And of course, mindset plays a huge role, but I could be the most positive person in the world and think I'm going to go run a 5K tomorrow. If I don't ever get my fanny out there and start doing the strategies to make me 5K ready, then I just won't succeed. So we're super proud that we're giving people confidence, empowering them through successes based on executing the plans.
So the news that I shared before we brought you on, Heather, one of the articles was bought through the Pitt Prescription, and it's part of the University of Pittsburgh School of Pharmacy. And it says the invisible work of pharmacists, what really goes on behind the counter. And it's about demystifying to the public what our pharmacists actually do. And I think this is part of the growth of community pharmacy, the DiversityRx level community pharmacy, the high performer.
Yep.
Part of it is public relations and helping to teach your community what you are capable of doing, and stop assuming that you think that they know what you do, because they don't know what you do. So when you invest in nutraceuticals and vitamin adherence packaging, customized nutrient packs, like whatever you call it, your senior care services, your home care services, your blood testing services, all of these things that are coming to community pharmacy are ready to be marketed and ready to be communicated to your community, that it all comes to the community pharmacy, all comes to the local pharmacy that everybody trusts.
That's right. I mean, we know without a shadow of a doubt that pharmacists in their communities make their communities better. But just like you said, we aren't, as a whole industry, very good at bragging on ourselves in our communities, and that needs to change. We need to take the position that we are the best at. We are the local experts in whatever the thing is that they have in their pharmacies, taking, the OTCs, the programs that you spoke about, and really scream it from the rooftops. And there's very clear strategies that you can do to do that. Start, instead of these Facebook posts that show cutesy things in your pharmacy, begin to really absolutely share your knowledge. And once you share your knowledge, people will pick up on it. Use your local media. Every single month, send out a press release. And let me tell you, the first couple months, you're going to get nothing back. It's 0. But the act of continuously doing it, being consistent, being the voice that people go to, will get you the notoriety, but the well-deserved notoriety to be able to educate your community on these much-needed programs.
That's right. Right. So Drug Take Back Day is April 22nd.
That's right.
So
tomorrow.
There's a perfect example of you getting a Facebook post, an Instagram post, a TikTok about what's happening in your community. Where can your community go to take back these medications, and use that as a marketing opportunity for yourself? Because every time you bring more people and more attention to your community pharmacy, you're making it literally safer for them within that community because of your coaching of best practices, number one, in safety, and then number two, in just living better and through the therapies that you've implemented and that you're supporting.
That's right. Well, and to go back to a little bit of mindset, we need to remember that this information is not, you're not bothering people. You're not a snake oil salesman. This is tried and true, yes. So scream it from the rooftops. You have information that your community wants. So call the local news station. They're always looking for stories. Your local radio, AM radio, talk radio is still big in individual communities. Yep. Get on some shows, and TV as well. And it'll be a little nerve-wracking in the beginning, but you'll become an old pro very quickly. So remember that Drug Take Back, the community wants to know about it, and you have the ability to scream it from the rooftops.
That's right. Yep. Sorry. So let's go back. Met Lisa in her previous executive role as she leveraged her understanding of what community pharmacies go through, designing strategy. Then she launches DiversityRx. We immediately gravitate towards the entire, stories and the manual and the strategy that she professed, because it came from somebody who knew what they were talking about, who actually is very hard on themselves. She has a very hard time realizing, and it's good. It's good not to allow your ego to, take a company where it's not supposed to go. And that is not Dr. Lisa Faast. Her head is on. She's proud of herself enough that she doesn't want to take extra congratulations per se. But being part of the Pharmacy 50 shows us that her peers are saying they think that she's part of the transformation of she's part of that transformation of what's happening in our profession. And that's to become a guide, a coach, a springboard for 19,000 community pharmacies throughout the country.
Well, and that's, she's amazing. We know she's amazing. But that's really why our membership is formatted the way it is. It's not overpriced or out of a price range that a new pharmacy or a really struggling pharmacy, that we can't jump in there and help them right where they're at. And let me say this, Lisa, she shares with us when pharmacies close, and her answer is always, I wish I would have known. I wish I would have known, because we could have helped. Yep. Lisa has a heart for this community, more so than any other person I've honestly ever met. And I am biased. I love her tremendously, but the way her brain works for the independent pharmacy is second to none. She loves the community that she's working in. She breathes, sleeps, eats independent community pharmacy.
Yeah, he really does. And so when I got to go to the very first DiversityRx event, Profit Summit Live, I was so excited. So I am excited to return. This is the 4th, or is this the 5th? Which one is this?
So we had virtual, live. This will be 4. Virtual, live, 1, 2.
So this is Profit
4.
Summit. This is Profit Summit Live 4. Okay.
Yeah. So it's Pharmacy Profit Summit 2023. It's our flagship event held in Dallas, Texas each year. This year it's August 4th and 5th.
Is it Grapevine, Texas?
No, we actually moved. I'm so thrilled. We moved to the Omni Dallas Hotel downtown. So we're ecstatic about that.
Omni Dallas.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So you can find out more at pharmacysummitprofit.com. You can find out all the questions, all the answers. If you don't, you can reach out to us. There's ways. I mean, heck, I think we're pretty easy to get a hold of.
Yeah. All right. So cash-based businesses.
Yes.
We're shifting back to this gear because I have to bring in our.
Yes.
But let me just say, it has been awesome working with you before DiversityRx. You and I met, and I've just enjoyed working with you. You are a sincere person. You're real. You're not fake. I can't stand fake people. I always like working with you. It means so much to me. And you always look out for us. So I always get an opportunity. And that's the philosophy of what DiversityRx has done. You guys have networked with champions, and then you kind of intertwine the network, which makes it even stronger. So we do appreciate you.
All right. Thank you. Right. Thank you for having me on. Have a good weekend.
Have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
All right. So I'm excited. I'm not going to spoil the party or the surprise, but let's remember, cash-based business is our feature. Wait till you guys watch this.
That came to be the birth of the Cannabis Pharmacy.
The birth of the Cannabis Pharmacy. That's actually what we're talking about this week in pharmacy. I want to welcome Josh and Steve to the show. I'm going to let them talk about themselves because I like talking about myself sometimes. So I like telling my story. So I'm going to start off with Steve. I want you to tell us what are we talking about today? What is This Week in Pharmacy about?
Today we are talking about cash-based pharmacy profits. What Josh and I do is we have a distribution company. We found the best cannabis products available on the market, and we aggressively marketed them and helped our pharmacists sell them for 6 years running now. We service about 700 independent pharmacies nationwide, based out of Charleston, South Carolina. We're a very, very small family-based company, and really our entire goal is profitability, ease of use, and helping your patients.
Yeah, and I'm going to step in here a little bit and just introduce myself. I'm Josh. Steve's a fast talker, so be prepared to listen well. We're going to talk about cannabis, obviously, and Steve hit the nail on the head.
420, hey.
Right?
Happy 420.
Steve hit the nail on the head with pharmacy profits and ended it there with patient results. And I think that's really a lot of the conversation that we'll have is getting results from your patients, having them take the right products and get results, and then getting them back to purchase again. Oh, thanks. You can see me a little bit more. Getting them back again to actually repurchase these products from the pharmacy, therefore creating those profits. And I think there's a lot that we've learned over the past 6 years of being in business together, and we've learned a lot the hard way. We've been able to see what works and what doesn't, and that gives us a special view.
The time is now to transform pharmacy. Literally, it's transforming. I see the pharmacy students changing. They're always looking to what the next thing is. They're pushing innovation. They're going to be part of the future. The future of independent community pharmacy in 10 years from today, and I mark my word, you heard it on this show, is going to be completely different paid than what, and then how it's paid today, because we are
Absolutely.
in PBM wars right now, and PBMs are gnashing of teeth because they finally are being exposed for what they've done. The three biggest PBMs to our drug market and taking things really hostage. I feel very strong about it, as you can tell. But you are presenting an opportunity to move away from the independence on the individual prescription fee in order to really build a brand and a community awareness and an education as an educator, because pharmacists are educators. You're a pharmacist's first number one duty. Do you know what the number one duty of a pharmacist is?
To do good is what I would say.
No,
Help their patients.
it's medication safety. It's literally to keep you from dying because the physician made a wrong, dosing form, or he or she didn't understand, what they were, whatever. But so
the change is happening now.
Exactly.
It's happening now.
Right now. And you guys are giving an opportunity to step away from that stranglehold and build a business around cannabis. And I'm excited about that.
And we take a unique view too, because we're in the pharmacy working with the pharmacists, working with the staff, teaching them how to interact with the patient, teaching them how to figure out what products are best suited for them to get the best result, figuring out how to approach to get the best outcome. And, without that lack of education and what we're bringing to the table with our program and support, it's been crazy. It has.
And that was really the genesis of the pharmacy program. Is this genuinely is medicine to us. And, there are 1,000,001 people out there that are selling cannabis products to any number of places.
Yes.
And God bless them. They're still fighting the good fight. But to people like Josh and I, this genuinely is medicine. We've used it medicinally in various forms for our entire lives. And really what we found very quickly 6 years ago when we started this was people are not comfortable talking about their back pain or their anxiety to someone at a smoker vape shop or any other establishment.
Yeah.
These people trust their pharmacist. They know you know them, you know their children's names. And ironically, you're also very familiar with their health issues already. And that's something we found is a lot of these folks have tried the medicinal route through pharmaceuticals. And for a lot of people, it has helped. And thank God for that. But for a lot of people, it has left them often in worse shape than they were when they started. Or at the very least, they've suffered from a lot of side effects that are arguably worse than the symptoms.
And of the thousands of pharmacies that we've literally walked into with our team and ourselves, most of the pharmacies have engaged in some sort of cannabis program, have tried it, attempted it. There's several that won't try it because they're still not comfortable with the legislation, but a lot of them have, and a lot of them have had success, and a lot of them have failed poorly. And it's because they didn't have the support. And every day that goes by, every pharmacist realizes that they have to have a cannabis program or their pharmacy is going to fall behind. And that's kind of where we try to bridge that gap, is to educate them and show them how you can make this work with the right tools and the support.
I think there's an education opportunity too to the public. I think of pharmacists are accessed 9 times more than their primary care physician. So you see your pharmacist 9 times more than you would see your doctor. And that's an opportunity. So that's an opportunity for education. And it's an opportunity to de-villainize what marijuana and what cannabis was done back in the 60s or 70s, where they really had a campaign to push this awfulness of this substance that was never
1933, I think was the last year.
Wow.
The last year. Yeah. So we tell pharmacists all the time, it's like, hey, it's almost been 100 years since pharmacists were able to teach their patients about using this plant medicine. It's crazy.
And it's wild though. We get into several of our pharmacies, some of the oldest pharmacies where we're from in South Carolina, and they have tincture bottles that where cannabis tincture is from pre-1930 era. And they say the exact same thing that our bottles say as well. They say inflammation, anxiety, sleep. So this is a very, very common use way back then. And then obviously we've kind of lost sight of it.
And shout out to Barbara over at Garen's Pharmacy in Summerville, South Carolina. She actually is the oldest pharmacy in South Carolina. Been around, don't quote me, I think it's 1860 something like that. Long time. I think in the same building, honestly. It's right in Main Street. Garen's Pharmacy. Garen's Pharmacy. Barbara, she's the owner there for a long time. She has this giant selection of cannabis in her pharmacy. She's been a student to our program, and you can go there and talk to her about what you got going on. And she takes the time and the passion to help you understand what you're doing, just like she does with the rest of the medicines in her pharmacy, right? That's why this is for pharmacy. That's why as a company, we decided to work with pharmacies, was because this is where patients go to talk about their health problems.
Yeah.
And more people are figuring out every day that you don't want to go to the smoke or vape shop because you're not going to get the same answers. You're probably not going to get a quality product. You may or may not, right? And so the companies that we work with are all publicly traded companies. They're vetted, right? They love standing behind their products and the facts that they're marked individually with lot numbers and expiration dates every time. There's a lot of legislative change coming for regulatory process of these products. And I think it's important to know the companies that you represent, that we do as well.
I'm excited that you're both involved with the network and that you're going to be providing us with a conduit to really unpack some things that I'm curious about, but I know that our pharmacists are curious about. Our pharmacy technicians are going to become the lead and the probably the replacement of what we all say, and sometimes derogatory, we call somebody a bud tender. And so, sometimes it's derogatory, sometimes it's literally a really good person that understands it. But the pharmacy technician, and I want you guys to listen up to this out in the audience, but you have an opportunity to become experts in dealing with non-medical suggestions as a bud tender does today, but doing it in a very scientific, evidence-based way because you're saturating in all of this pharmacist engagement and understanding and content and, understanding where to access the information. But you'll become the super bud tenders.
And we have our own phrase, Steve dubbed it, it's the cannabis rock star, right? We identify within a pharmacy the 1, 2, or 3 folks, and 9 times out of 10, it is a pharmacy technician, or it might even be the girl up front or the guy that actually is doing more interaction with the patient than the actual pharmacist does. I mean, it's very common for us to educate the pharmacist, obviously, but really we focus a lot on those cannabis rock stars that are really the individuals that are talking to the patients. And those are the ones that are the conduit 9 times out of 10 to the patient about which product to take.
And that's what we tell them, say, you guys are literally the front line of defense against chronic illness here, because when we go to a pharmacy and we set them up the way we love to set them up, the display case is right there by the register. The marketing and educational materials are right there by the register, because we want people to start asking y'all questions. And that's so important, is the generation of interest and questions are really the only thing stopping anybody from getting help through cannabis medicine. Is they're either afraid to ask, or they're afraid of the stigma of asking, or they just don't even know what question to ask. And that's what we get a lot, is somebody will call us on the bat phone, which is what we call our 24/7 hotline, and say, hey, I honestly don't know a single thing about this, but my daughter told me I need to start taking CBD. She didn't even mention why. Right. We get a lot of that, and that's why the education matters just so much. And that's why the pharmacies and the pharmacy techs and the pharmacists themselves are in such a great position and so poised to help people way more than anyone in any other institution. As you mentioned, you only see your doctor once or twice a year or when you're sick. You go to these pharmacists regularly, they know you so intimately that they know how they can help you best, as long as they're properly trained and educated.
And hats off to you too for kind of letting us come in and join and share some of this stuff. We think it's real important for people to hear and learn, as we're doing every day since we started this. And so, thanks to Pharmacy Podcast Network for having us come in and just share and be a part of helping other people learn what we're learning too along the way.
I think
right?
that, I'm an internet Googler, and I like to search people out and ask questions and, find out who people are before you kind of get into the inner circle. But your background, your reputation, the transparency of both of you since I began working with you, and that it's been refreshing, as well as my own testimony of being a customer, and you giving me the kit, the starter kit, the samples, and literally what you were expressing, and not exaggerated. Neither of you exaggerated my experiences, but you kind of told me it was going to happen, and some of those things did in fact happen. I had good feedback and reactions to the products, so that's important, as well as the organizations that you're a part of and that you're connecting into. PioneerRx, Pharmacy Management Systems. I mean, we work with their parent company called Red Cell. And Red Cell, as you can see up there, we always have Integra X Files. That's one of their long-term care pharmacy podcasts that focuses on the advancement of accessing through their new system access the best information to run your long-term care pharmacy. So that amazes me that you've become part of a family of everything kind of transforming this industry and making this industry better. And really, I know where your hearts are because you keep talking about your patients, but that's where I want this to draw, is I want this to lead to better outcomes for patients. And I want it to be healthier outcomes, because we know, as I believe, that the pharmaceutical market and giving a pill for absolutely everything at all times is not the right way to go. There needs to be a blend of pharmacological and integrative. And I think we've ignored some of the integrative for so long, or we, demonized it back in the 1930s. So now it's time to bring it out from behind the street corners. And like I love my own experience story with marijuana. Like, I didn't try it until I was 38 years old, like as a late bloomer. But I entered at a time where I was extremely stressed out. I was going through the ending of a divorce, and I didn't know what to do. I was resulting to drinking more than I wanted to. And I almost thought I had a problem, but then I went on a no alcohol run for about a year.
Good for you.
And thank you. And during that time, I tried cannabis. And then I began, because I had a bad feeling about it. I was still under my mom and dad's, feeling about smoking marijuana and stuff. But I realized quickly that as infrequently as it was to start me out, it literally helped me feel happier than the law I was going through and the depression that I think I was going through. I know I was going through.
Some of those pills that you might have been taking.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah. I was never into pills, but definitely alcohol. And I made it for an entire year. And actually the reason I started drinking again was it was a wedding.
You enjoyed it.
Too.
You enjoyed it.
But I loved it.
Because you enjoyed it.
What
right?
it taught me, that especially the topicals and especially administration, I can't wait to get into discussions with you guys with administration.
That's so important.
Because when you say marijuana, my father's generation, my grandfather's generation, grandma and everybody, they immediately think that you're sitting there, toking on a joint or smoking a joint.
They call it the real stuff. On the street, they call it real stuff. The real stuff, yeah.
The topicals and the roll-ons. My wife, shout out to Nikki, she uses that roller, every night. If she asks me, can you please put the roller on? And 1 out of 5 times, it could lead to something else than just rolling it on the back. You know what I mean?
It's the number one way we make believers out of non-believers. If you have pain and you rub one of our topicals, specifically that 1500 roll on from Green Roads, man, it works. I mean, we have just converted so many people. It's wild.
So it's impacting my life in a personal way, and it's backed by and should be part of the decision-making of my most favorite people in healthcare, which are our pharmacists.
Sure.
And when I can blend the source that you guys are going to become for us, and you're going to be an outreach, whereas if pharmacists have questions, they can reach out to Cannabis Pharmacy and say, hey guys, help me with this, or this. Legislation per state is very important. We want to hear from pharmacists about any of your state associations working to change any state laws around cannabis and demystifying it and making it, making it usable, so that a community pharmacist, an independent community pharmacy owner that wants to make a pain topical recommendation, that wants to be non-opioid driven and use the opioids for a very, very short time and titrate and get ready onto the next thing, which is more healthy medicines and healthy topicals and diet and all of that stuff.
That's our goal.
So you're part of that now. So I'm excited you guys are here.
That's really what this boils down to, is we've become very, let's say, linear as a society, as far as this hurts, take this pill, this doesn't hurt anymore. And that's really not the true answer to general overall health and wellness. And that's really what we believe the cannabis plant represents, is CBD, cannabidiol, which is the largest compound in the plant, is nothing more than a very powerful anti-inflammatory agent. So the cool part about that is everybody out there listening and watching knows that inflammation is the root of all evil in this world, right? All of the illnesses I have, my anxiety is inflammation in my neural pathways. My knee injury from playing rugby is inflammation in my knee. When you're treating that on a core basis from within, when you're taking the CBD products, that's when you're actually going to be finding full relief. And we get a lot of people that start taking CBD for one particular thing, and then they call us and they say, wow, I also didn't realize I was sleeping better than I've ever slept in my life. I also realized that when a rainstorm came in, my back didn't hurt. So it's really cool to see the whole health of the plant that's really helping everybody.
But coupled with the right dosage and the right product, because so many times the patients have come to us and say, hey, yeah, I tried that. Right. It didn't do anything for me. Right. You know, we ask them, hey, which one did you take? How long did you take it? How much did you take? And it's, oh, I don't know. Right. And so there's a lot to be said about just saying, hey, CBD helps. That, you know, it's just like anything else that's in the pharmacy. It's got directions on it. Right. And so I think it's really important that we shine a lot of light. And as we're talking about these products and we're going through all the educational stuff, that the application, the dosage is just so important. Just like anything else.
Oh, gosh. And all you pharmacists out there know that patients are the worst at following dosing correctly. And from what we found, to be perfectly frank, you pharmacists are much better. We always hear the doctors are the worst patients, and we have lots of pharmacists that call us 6-7 times before they get their dose. Once you find that dose that works for you, that's when you start to see true homeostasis in your body. And
yes.
The incredible thing is the dose is different for every single person of CBD to achieve your best self. We have little old ladies that take several hundred milligrams a day, and they're dancing around like a Keebler elf.
Yep.
And we've got big old firemen down in Charleston that need a significantly lower dose that I personally wouldn't even recommend for a child, but they're particularly sensitive and their cannabinoid receptors are active and engaged, and they need a much smaller dose. So it is very dependent on your body chemistry, which is why not only the education is so important, but also the willingness to actually commit to it and try for an extended period of time.
And follow up too. You know, it's no different. You know, your pharmacist follows up with you after you've had something happen. You may be taking some medicine for a certain reason. We train the same way. You know, when Ms. Smith comes in and she tries the CBD for the first time and you recommend for her to take it a certain way, you got to ask her how it works, because she may be like a lot of other patients where she was taking 25 in the morning and 25 mgs in the afternoon. And, you know, it was helping a little bit. You know, she was kind of liking it a little bit, but it wasn't really what she was looking for. And if she would have just bumped her dose up to 50 mgs in the morning, 50 mgs at night, she would, you know, we've had those success stories. A lot of what we bring to our experience is from talking to real people like me and you in the pharmacies, or that have called our hotline from the pharmacy flyer, that have told us, this is what I did, this is the result I got. And a lot of people in between where it didn't work, and then we're trying to identify why it didn't work, and then recalibrate and convince the patient to say, hey, you know, look, let's try this again, but let's do it this way. And a lot of our program within the pharmacies too is the same way, where a lot of pharmacies had success at this at some point. They had CBD, it was going great, and pre-COVID, then COVID happened. And a lot of products expired, buying habits changed, the doors closed, right? Yada, yada, yada. And so even now we see where we're trying to bring pharmacies back to life that had a little bit of success at one point in the program. And really that just boils down to having the right products, having the right education, having the right marketing materials, and the support too. And that just boils back down to follow up with the patient. If we're not having the patient come back and say, yes, this was working great, or not come back in and purchase it again, we've lost, you know. And I think it's important for the pharmacist to understand and build their own success stories based off of their own patients too, and their own individual success too, right?
And that's what we always tell the pharmacists. You know, the joke is, especially here on 420, first hit's always free. Right? When we meet a pharmacist, we love to give you guys samples to try for yourself and your families, because what they always tell you is when the plane's going down, you put your own mask on first. And that's something that I know all the pharmacists and pharm techs and frontline workers out there really always need to remember, myself included. Anybody that's service oriented, you always need to remember self-care is incredibly important so that you can do what you love to do the best. And that's really why we tell all these pharmacists, pharm techs, and front desk workers, hey, you absolutely have to try these yourself. You have to feel the relief. The patients that are listening to you tell your own testimonial story, feel that enthusiasm. They're going to see in your eyes that you slept better that night. And that's really why the just drives it so far home.
And it's happened countless times, right? And so that's why we're so passionate about it, because we've seen what this has done to so many people and families and moms and kids and pets.
I want to give a shout out, and just, if you're listening to this podcast, you're watching us on TWIRx, and you have a suggestion for a topic specifically tied to cannabis medicine, cannabis in general, CBD, give us a shout out and let us know. Go to @pharmacypodcast.com or our website, or any of the @pharmacypodcast on Instagram, Twitter,
Or
What
maybe
else?
even a experience you want to share too, right? I
Yeah.
think we build a lot of conversation off of people's experience, maybe whether it's positive or negative, or, it kind of helps lead a conversation
I
too.
wish
right?
that we could put out a survey to 305,000 pharmacists that are active in the United States and find out their feelings on like 3 questions. And one of them is, are you a advocate or are you someone that's regularly suggesting cannabis or CBD products?
Interesting to see. Yeah.
Because I'm wondering how many active pharmacists are using their pharmacological expertise to say, wow, this would really work good in this situation, that it wouldn't have an interaction with this drug because I see what they're on.
It's grown leaps and bounds over the last, it's been 6 years. Late
6 years.
late 17 is when we came up with this beautiful idea, right? But it is changing and growing. I think things like we're doing right now change and grow that every day too. So I think it's we're all doing our part.
Yeah. And something we're both so proud of is that when you ask our pharmacists in the Cannabis Pharmacy family those same questions, what they're going to say is, the reason I believe in it is I've seen it work in my patients and it's lucrative. And that's really, really what we try to drive home is,
that's what I want.
Again, this is cash based. You are not waiting 90 days for a reimbursement on this. When somebody buys that jar, you are getting that money right then and there. We are in the business of keeping pharmacies in business. We know y'all are fighting a good fight, and you're fighting it against several big bad wolves.
Hey, let's give them a shout out code about what code they should use when they make their first order on Cannabis Pharmacy.
I think right now we were doing 20% off of our starter orders. So PPN20.
PPN20. So go to cannabispharmacy.com, put your starter kit order in, put your order in, try some things out.
Give us
the
a
worst
call.
thing that's going to happen is that you're going to sell these things. You have to learn to promote. Wait till you hear the show that these guys are bringing. Cannabis Pharmacy has joined the Pharmacy Podcast Network. Welcome.
Excited.
And you're going to be bringing us monthly shows on all things freaking cannabis, which I can't wait. It's going to be my...
Oh, yeah.
When the show was up and running originally, we've had 3. This is the 3rd. Actually, 3 is my favorite number. So maybe this is a good omen sign.
We have heard stories from A to Z, and so we'll be able to bring a lot of really great, relatable stuff. I think that real listeners, real folks can listen to.
Yeah, and I think the inclusion of our experts in place that we've always sourced are going to become a big part of contributing to the information that we're bringing to the Pharmacy Podcast Network.
Absolutely.
Because we're going to blend science. We're going to blend conversations about current events, actual cases. We're going to get physicians involved in some of our discussions. We're going to bring pharmacists on, obviously, but we're also going to access the business side of this and really telling our community pharmacy owners how to grow this business. Like, let's blow this up. I'm all here for it.
With the support and with the right products.
Service, support, and selection.
Yep, that's our motto. Actually, it's under our name, service, support, and selection. And that's what we've learned painstakingly over 6 years is that pharmacists are busy. They need help. They got to have this. They know they need to train their staff. They know they need to know what to tell people. And they lean on us because we're the folks that have worked so hard to create that reputation and help them see that right out the gate. I want you to make them profit your first 30 days in business with us. We're going to give you samples for your first 20 patients that are taking pain or sleep meds and actually tell you to give it to them for free and tell them to come back next time and tell you how it feels, right?
That's awesome.
Kind of jumpstart your program.
Well, I'm excited. This has always been a fascinating subject that I've personally always wanted more information on. So it's exciting to have 2 guys that are committed to it and committed to it for the right reasons.
Absolutely.
And I like that. Hey, if you haven't bought your US Farmy shirt yet, please go to usfarmy.com. 100% of this proceeds go to a veteran support organization in Fayette County here called the Dog Tag Club. A shout out to my man Whip, who runs that for us. And we've raised over $3,000 so far.
You got an extra large out there for
I
big
think
boy?
I do. I think we have to get you guys in these. Definitely a large for you, but maybe a little bigger.
And just to let everybody know too, before we wrap up here, go to cannabispharmacy.com or just give us a call. Obviously just mention PPN Pharmacy Podcast Network. We'll do a training with you, educate you on the products, kind of make some recommendations to you.
Yeah, this is a whole program, people. This isn't just this is not just
we'll hold your hand through the
this
process.
Is about
Yeah.
This is an environment. This is a network. This is how we strengthen the profession of pharmacy by bringing good things to market, good things to conversations.
Don't ever take our word for it. Go on our YouTube channel. We're the Cannabis Pharmacy on YouTube. About 15 videos up there. Half of them are just Josh and I being nerds talking about products and seeing what we've seen in the field.
We like
Field our pharmacists.
My favorite half is our pharmacists and our doctors talking about these, both in their personal lives with their families and in the pharmacy. And that's really the tearjerker stuff right there. Is you're going to see a lot of stories with a lot of success as you go.
And we worked hard too to get our pharmacies that we work with over the past 6 years. Steve and I and our team have literally drove into 95% of them and know the owners and know the staff. And you can check that out at cannabispharmacy.com on the pharmacy locator. And it actually shows you all of our pharmacies.
Yeah, you guys are really
that represent
growing.
us, you know.
I'm excited.
Which is awesome.
All right. Well, we got to wrap up. Thank you so much for this segment of This Week in Pharmacy. Go to cannabispharmacy.com, put in code PPN20.
Yep, 20.
Yep. And you'll get,
or give us a call,
20% off, or call them up. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
You guys have a great week.
See you next time.
This episode is sponsored by Independent Pharmacy Cooperative, widely known as IPC. Established in 1983, IPC is the nation's largest group purchasing organization owned by independent pharmacy. With a mission of maximizing the success of community pharmacists, IPC works to provide members with access to effective programs and services designed to enhance profitability for independent pharmacy. Read more about our mission by checking out our website at ipcrx.com. That's ipcrx.com.
Hey, welcome to This Week in Pharmacy. What a special episode. I've been waiting for Bruce to join me on my own show. Hard to believe, Bruce, but I've been podcasting for 14 years. I've never actually had my own show. It's always been another pharmacist or another guest or host like yourself. So This Week in Pharmacy is finally my show. And welcome to my show, Bruce. Welcome to This Week in Pharmacy. This is a montage. This is a collaboration between Pharmacy Crossroads and This Week in Pharmacy because, Bruce, you helped us to launch Pharmacy Crossroads more than, 2 years ago? And it's one of our most popular podcasts dedicated to community pharmacy. So welcome to This Week in Pharmacy, Bruce.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be on your I'm trying to think of the cliche, but it's your big show. So yeah, the words will come to me in a couple minutes when it's too late, but happy to be here. Pharmacy Crossroads has been a phenomenal experience for me. I think we started our first episode 2.5 years ago. It would be August. It'll be 3 years.
Jeez.
And right as the pandemic was coming and I couldn't get on the road and go visit any pharmacies anymore. So we took the road show on to the podcast show. And here we are almost 3 years later. As I counted, I think this one with Marc, which is going to be a capstone event for my career, is the 35th Pharmacy Crossroads podcast.
Holy cow.
And
yeah, you just let the cat out of the bag, our special guest. Our special guest.
we have a really special guest, and it's an honor to be able to reach up into the industry and talk to people of this caliber who it's at the top of the pyramid in the independent pharmacy industry. And Marc, and we're going to stumble over your last name again, Essensa. Is that close enough? You'll correct me. And we practiced this 5 times before, but I just don't have the ear for it. Marc popped onto my radar screen about 4 months ago when it was announced that he was selected to be the CEO for the Independent Pharmacy Cooperative. And after some finagling and pulling some strings, we were finally able to get Marc to find some time in his schedule and chat with us and kind of share his vision for what he's going to do as he takes the helm of IPC moving forward. And with that, Marc, I'm going to let you take a minute or two and tell us who you are and where you came from, and then we'll ask you the hard questions.
Absolutely. And thank you very much for having me on the show today. And I'm certainly very excited to be, in the position I'm at here at IPC and being able to carry on kind of the traditions of our organization, taking over from Don Anderson, who was retired on December 31st, and really taking a look at how do we grow our group, and how do we continue to future-proof independent pharmacy now and into the future, and getting us on a sustainable path going forward. So as you said, my name is Marc Essensa. Pretty good on the pronunciation. I even mentioned before that even members of my own family pronounce it differently, so no insults taken. But it is Marc with a C because I am French. I'm French Canadian, so it is Marc with a C if you're ever trying to look me up or trying to drop me an email in the future. So kind of a little bit of a background. So I mentioned I'm Canadian, so I started in the industry 26 years ago. I was actually working for McKesson in Canada. So when I graduated from the University of Alberta with a business degree, I started off as a warehouse supervisor on the night shift in our facilities down in Calgary, Alberta. And then subsequently got a few promotions. I went up to Edmonton, Alberta, which huge independent structures up in Canada, a very robust independent market up there. Daryl Cates was actually one of my customers before he became a billionaire and sold Rexall to, at the time, McKesson. Wow. He was one of my first customers up at Capilano Rexall back in the late 90s. So moved around McKesson Canada until 2003, and I had the opportunity to come to the United States. So McKesson at the time got me what's known as an L1A visa, which is a company transfer visa. And I moved to Hartford, Connecticut, ran the distribution centers in Hartford and the whole New England area. And then subsequently went from Calgary, Edmonton, then to Hartford, next to Los Angeles. So I was in Los Angeles at our Southern California distribution operations group. And then we did a bit of a reorganization as to how we went to market, and we wanted some cross-functional leaders at the company at the time. And so coming out of the distribution network as a director of operations running warehouses, I went to vice president and general manager, where I had responsibility for independent sales, hospital sales, and distribution operations. And I concurrently moved to St. Louis, for which 10 years I was the vice president general manager for the North Central region, taking care of those particular classes of trade and customers. Great experience, great cross section of the industry. Learned a lot there. And then in 2018, you all may remember in the industry, McKesson was the third large wholesaler to go into the secondary business, and they purchased Masters Drug Company, similar to what PharMed is or Smart Source is for AmeriSource and Cardinal. So when the purchase of Masters happened in 2018, it was important that at the time to McKesson to bring in somebody to integrate that company within the McKesson Corporation. So I moved to Dayton, Ohio, where I was situated for 3.5 years in Dayton, and I ran and integrated the Masters Drug Company, which had a lot of autonomy. I was completely separate from the McKesson organization. They allowed me to run the company the way it wanted to. They wanted to continue that model. And I think we were quite successful at it, and we certainly enjoyed our time there. And I learned a lot about the buy side and manufacturers and secondaries, and certainly our entire customer base at the time was independent pharmacy. So I had a lot of great crossover information. At the time, I also was subsequently running our Sky Packaging, which is our manufacturing arm for unit dose, hospital unit dose. And I also ran McKesson's 3PL business called RxTPL. So had a big portfolio, got to see a lot of different industry stuff, got to learn a lot about it. And up until November of this year, when the announcement that came out that I'd be taking over, I went through a very short process with the IPC board of directors. So you asked the question, how did Marc get to this position? How did he come to IPC? Well, it just so happens that as a distribution center manager and then a vice president general manager, a lot of the key members of the board, I did their contracts for them. So that was part of my territory. I knew a lot of those individuals, and I think they respected the way that I treated their businesses. They respected the way I negotiated their contracts, educated them on the industry from our perspective. And I believe successfully that they thought that this would be a good fit for the challenges ahead, as well as the challenges currently within the IPC organization, in order to take what Don has created and others before him, and to take it to the next level. So happy to be here, excited, 25 years at McKesson, but the opportunity when the board graciously offered me the position was a great opportunity for me and my family. I have a wife and two daughters, 10 and 12 years old. I started late in life with children, and I live in Dallas, Texas, and I commute back and forth to Madison as I need. And then, of course, as you all know, in this business, we travel to the different trade shows, and we're all over the country at all times. And Dallas is actually a pretty convenient place for me to get anywhere.
No better airport in the United States to travel the country from Dallas. It surprised people if you take a line and draw it from Seattle to Miami and from Boston to San Diego, it crosses right at Dallas. It's almost exactly in the middle of the country.
That's right.
Well, I mean, you mentioned 2 or 3 things there that I'm going to just make you elaborate on. So first of all, you mentioned Rexall. I don't know that many of the people listening to our show would be aware that Rexall is a big, vibrant name in Canada. What is Rexall in Canada?
So Rexall, I believe, is around 700 corporate-owned stores under the Rexall banner, similar to what you saw here in the United States for years. Pantone colors, marketing, it looks very much the same.
Yeah.
It was started up and built out by a gentleman named Daryl Cates, who grew that out of his independent buying group that he had at the time, Guardian and IDA Drugs. He was able to parlay that into this fairly large retailer. And back, I want to say 2009, 2010. I don't know it exactly. It was purchased by McKesson. So Rexall is a corporate-owned entity in McKesson, in Canada now.
And I still think there's 700 Rexall signs over stores in the United States. It's pretty hard to get some of these guys to take those old signs down.
I love the heritage of it. I love the name.
I do too. I do too.
I hope it does have some longevity, well past our times in the field. So.
Well, that's a wonderful introduction. There's several rabbit holes I'd like to chase down, but we're going to avoid some of my personal interests here and try to say, okay. McKesson and IPC, is that a good background for you to take this independent cooperative and help pharmacists future-proof their pharmacies? I love the future-proof word. That was great.
Yeah, and thank you for that. So obviously taking over from the McKesson side of the business and coming over here, there's some benefits and there's certainly some sensitivities to it that you can imagine go along with it, especially being an executive at McKesson, for 25, up to 25 years. I think where the crossover is and where it's really good is a lot of the relationships, as we know, in this industry. People are have different names on different business cards, but they all have the same kind of a passion. And that passion, at least within our space and our class of trade, is necessarily knowing how do we sustain the model for independent pharmacy, which I've been working on for since 2009 when I got into the sales space. How do we continue to develop and organize that particular class of trade to be successful long and into the future? And I think what it's allowed me to do is, being on the McKesson side, obviously I was on their segment operating committee at one point on the independent side. So that's new products and services that are developed by their franchise, which is called Health Mart. Those are other franchises and other wholesalers. Also working and understanding how their PSAO works, also understanding effectively how the business of the business works on their side. And I think that makes me an effective advocate for our members on our side, understanding what is our motivations as to what we need at the time and what McKesson in particular can provide, or any wholesaler. So I'd have great insights into anybody in the wholesaling industry, just knowing that the business models are similar. So having those relationships over there was not an adversarial leave. Sure, yeah. I hope it was disappointing. From an ego standpoint, I hope it was disappointing that I decided to move. But certainly the relationships are still there. Being able to know where to go, how to get work done. When a member or the organization in particular needs something done, I'm able to hopefully translate all that a lot. And again, being so passionate, especially the last 5 years, where I was outside the McKesson skirt on the outside, but still working with independent pharmacy, kind of gives you an appreciation for, the financial models that everybody's going through today, and how do we continue to look at how do we help on that side, as well as I'm sure we'll get into a little bit later, and what other product services are we going to do in order to make our independence stronger for the future.
That's a good segue, but I do want to say, so it's been my play. I've been in the business for a while, and the thing that gives me the most confidence in your background is, you say, the trust you have from your board of directors. It's been my privilege to know and visit almost all of the people who are on your board of directors in their pharmacies, and when they tell me that they thought you were the guy, I was convinced immediately. So you've got a great board, and we do want to talk a little bit about your ownership situation in a little bit. But right now, back to the best getting better. Name 2 or 3 of the challenges that we've got in pharmacy right now, and how you think IPC is positioned to help overcome those for pharmacy owners.
So, taking aside, and I'll get to the DIR hangover, obviously that'll be coming up here, and reimbursements, being that effectively is our major challenge. But some of the things is, I'll start with the opportunities as to how we can help to address some of these things. So what I've been finding in the independent space is that as we have this halo effect coming off of COVID, as to the providers that are out in the marketplace, 90% of all COVID vaccines being done in a retail environment, whether it's chain or independent, and how access to infrastructure within the nation is so much buoyed by what independents do on a daily basis. We started to take a look at, okay, how do we continue down this halo effect in terms of making sure that we're able to work with lawmakers, work with payers, and then work with networks in order to be able to sustain our model that we're going to have going forward. So we have a very robust government affairs group that is specifically working on, and they're industry people that you may know, and I'm sure you do, with Mark Kinney and John Cavello, as well as support that we have for NAC or the National Association of Community Pharmacies, as well as others. How do we go forward to advocate for what we do? So we've been doing a lot of efforts in meeting with lawmakers for provider status, for reimbursement rates, PBM clarity, those types of things. So those are an important part of what we're doing, and we continue to invest in that, through the IPC group, in terms of making sure that we're getting our community pharmacies a voice at the table and to capitalize on this halo effect that we have out there. Now, tactically, it's a little bit different. So we're in the process, and then we're working on it, and it's not ready for prime time, and certainly not ready to share widely in the market. But just conceptually, what we see is, with things such as medical billing and teledoc services, telepharmacy, point of care testing, remote patient monitoring, DSCSA compliance at the stores, we have, as an independent owner, you have all these factors coming in to you, multiple vendors on each one of those particular opportunities or issues. It can be very confusing. So what we're trying to look at as the IPC space is to, create an environment or an ecosphere where a lot of these things are bundled such that you have solutions for all of these problems with one domain to get to. And that's what we're currently working on diligently. We plan on being able to direct members who are either counseling patients or working behind the counter, or are just absolutely overworked at the time, who don't have time to put the mind share that needs to be into this particular space, and to use what we do in our expertise, and obviously as a group purchasing organization, leveraging contracts and relationships to put it all together. So that's what we're currently working on in order to be able to maximize the opportunities for independent pharmacies to take advantage of situations that come up to them a la carte. So as much or as little as you wish to be involved in it, or what makes sense for your business, because not everything is going to fit everywhere. So I think that's one of the biggest things that we're working on.
I love how you stepped through 5 or 6 things that are on the horizon that are real. And an organization like yours has got the size and scope and talent, like say, to pull that all together and be able to take it piece by piece to members where they are, and eliminate some of the confusion. It's an exciting time for pharmacists right now if they can figure out how to take that step forward into the unknown. And my experience is that those who've done that are making money and growing. And quite frankly, one of the biggest trends I see in the industry right now is successful independents buying other independents and turning themselves into mini chains of 5, 6, 7 stores.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's absolutely right. So we're here in our offerings to give them the best opportunity to get access to industry leaders and knowledge and vendors that are going to be able to help them in that journey without having to go sift through them all themselves. The other thing that we are working on currently to help with members, and this goes back to reimbursements and it has to do more with the buy side. So we're a primary vendor with McKesson, a very great relationship for a lot of years, and it will continue on, into the future as we hope we continue to move on with McKesson. That said, there's just certain amounts of things that any primary wholesaler can and cannot do when it comes to specifically on the generic side. And a lot of the opportunities that happen out in the market because of all the turbulence within the generic manufacturing side, with people losing awards or winning awards on the source programs and opportunity buys and programs going out there where source programs necessarily are at a higher price than you can buy in the secondary market due to the fact that it is a cross-subsidized model where the WAC minus discounts are being paid for with generic margin in some form or a fashion. So it always makes that secondary market more attractive. So what we're working on specifically is outside of the, once you're into your compliance, it's not 100% compliance. So it's a matter of taking out for a walk what it is that you have over and above your compliance that is available to be purchased out in the market and to average cost down your entire book. And part of doing that is going through the IPC warehouse. And I know you just showed a picture of it there on the cast here. The IPC warehouse is one of the largest wholesalers in the nation in terms of what we do. We have 2,000 members that are selling, that are buying from us on the GPO side, and we have another 4,000 affiliates, which would be agnostic to whatever wholesaler they happen to be doing. At any one time, we're carrying $80 million worth of inventory on the floor. We uniquely have branded products that we do sell and are, at a typical of cost, right there on the website, cost less 3, which, on specific products is probably either at par or better than some of the differentially priced items out there, such as the things that are hitting us right now, like GLP-1s or other products that being able to access through our warehouse not only helps your GCR calculation with your primary wholesaler, whoever that might be, but also getting access to some lower cost generics to at least take some of that cap that you have over and above your compliance of your contract out, such that you can take advantage of it and help your overall bottom line. So those are some big things that we're working on within the warehouse. We just recently, and this goes back to the tradition of the business, the IPC warehouse always had a rebate. So whatever you bought from the IPC warehouse, you would get a rebate 45 days later. And being from the secondary industry, running masters and being on TRIX8 and all the platforms and knowing the entire secondary market, you ask the obvious question, well, why do we do that? And it's, well, we always do that. We've always done it. As well, the whole idea of the secondary market is cash flow and opportunity. And it's not the reason why wholesalers use rebates is to hold you to your compliance, so let's just go to net. And so as of March 1st, we went full net in all of our warehouse, which makes it a lot simpler because you're not sending out rebates, you're not holding money, and it makes our product or our pricing in line with the secondary market to be more competitive.
That's fascinating. I'm assuming you've got the mechanism to help make sure that what they buy from your warehouse and what they buy from their primary wholesaler, which I guess in this case is McKesson, they balance it all out so that they qualify for their performance rebates.
Correct.
Right?
We have specific tools. Now, we were only able to do that obviously with IPC members where we have data feeds and we help them to maintain within compliance with some of the tools that we do have and offer. Obviously, $3 out of $4 that come through our warehouse are not from IPC members. So it's a matter of people have other tools in the marketplace that exist that are probably using that. Or there are some folks that, they're willing to go out and, not get the branded cost of goods, but being able to be a 0% GCR customer and shop the marketplace. That is becoming one of the largest models that I'm seeing out in the marketplace is a non-cross subsidized model of getting your brands at WAC minus 3, but getting all your generics at net at secondary pricing. So you have to do the math. It's a math exercise, but it is becoming more ubiquitous out in the marketplace.
And to be clear, a person can buy from the warehouse without being an IPC member?
Yes, anybody with a retail pharmacy license can buy from our warehouse. They're called an affiliate member, but yeah, there's no dues. You just basically go on the IPC website and set up your account, and you'd have access to all 2,200 generics and 3,300 or 330 brand items, and the $85 million worth of inventory that we have access to in our warehouses.
So buy side, you're helping as best you can, and you're trying to untangle the maze of future opportunities. Explain to me a little bit about the ownership. I know that one of the things that you wanted to make clear is the cooperative nature, that your members are stockholders, and what does that entail and provide? How does that help you, and how does that help your members? Very good, and thank you for the question. So as a cooperative, we are a true co-op, so we do not retain any of the admin fees that we collect as a GPO. We're a little bit unique, and this is where it's exciting for what it is that we do and the opportunity with our warehouse. Our member owners are the 2,100 GPO members. So those are the members that are under the McKesson prime vendor contract that we have. That is what constitutes being a member. They have right to vote in elections, elect board members, be board members. So that's what a member is, and they are the owner of the company, and I work effectively for them. So what happens is that, as you can imagine, all GPOs, the way they operate and the way they get money is that they get an admin fee from their primary wholesaler, whatever that might be. It's usually a sub 1% of net sales that everybody gets. And that goes to fund all your rebates team, your marketing teams, all those things that happen in any type of GPO come from those admin fees. And we're no different. So we're bringing in those particular admin fees into the IPC domain. And what happens is that our warehouse, because we service a lot of non-IPC members, including IPC members, does generate I don't know if you want to call it a profit, but creates a dividend for the members. And the amount of money that we produce in the IPC warehouse is greater than the expenses that we incur for running the GPO. So all of those admin dollars that are paid by our primary wholesaler come to us, are 100% dispersed back to the members. So they effectively, it's free. It doesn't cost them anything. So all those admin fees to every dollar goes back to the member, and any residual over and above those admin dollars that were collected on their, from their purchases, that is a residual from the warehouse, is also dispersed back to the members as what we call a patronage dividend. So to the owners. And so what happens is that we effectively, on a yearly basis, we pay out 25% of the profits of that particular year, and then we retain 75% for 3 years. And that 3-year retention that we have of that money is what funds the $85 million that we have to have in inventory sitting on the floor. Plus, we also have credit terms and all that, so it's not all of that. And then each year in May, we release the 1 year of the third year of retained earnings. So come this May, our members will be dispersed their 2019 equity, and then should somebody decide to leave, the group, they can either have their equity paid out in perpetuity until it's all paid out, or they can, with a discount, they can have it all taken out at any time. So, but it's a very lucrative thing. It's on average for a pharmacy, it's probably 30 basis points of their entire purchase, maybe a little bit more. Wow. That is what our historical dividend is, and it is growing because of the profits of our warehouse. So, speaking of your warehouse, it's my understanding that you've consolidated that into one. Has that happened, or is it happening? What's the status of that? That's a great question. So the reason why we had the 2 warehouses at the time was in order to create redundancy should you have mechanical, hurricane, storm, snow, whatever it is. It was really a misguided thing in terms of our working capital strategy, so we had to kind of correct that. So there's really not a reason. We have redundant conveyors, we have redundant power supplies, all that stuff here, just like any distribution center would. And out of the 1 or 2 times a year that we get a snowstorm, it's not worth having the 2 warehouses. So the reason why we did the consolidation specifically is that we would have $50 million or $55 million sitting on the floor in Sun Prairie, which was our main hub, and a further $30 million sitting down in Phoenix.
That Phoenix facility is now closed. It closed on April the 1st. All the product is now here. 100% of our orders have been coming out of Madison for several weeks now. All that inventory no longer exists. So what that does is, as we talked about, having those patronage dividends being retained, we now have a cash play of being able to bring that roughly $20 to $25 million worth of cash back in-house by better managing the inventory, which is the same way the big wholesalers do. They're big cash generators, and we're no different. We have to work on cash flow, and what that'll allow us to do is to be able to redeploy that money into the development of the products that I talked about a little bit earlier on that ecosphere, to bring an easy button for all these things that are hitting independent pharmacies now.
Got to be huge efficiencies in terms of just rent and equipment maintenance, and then obviously turns. You're turning your inventory better now because it's all in one place. So
yeah, absolutely. It was a little bit more expensive because we're now flying to the West Coast rather than from Phoenix, but everything's overnight air. So it was roughly a $400,000 or $500,000 incremental expense to that. But between the duplicative inventory of $30 million, plus the rent, as you mentioned, you got all that staffing, management, inventory control, licensing, heat, light, power. It was kind of a no-brainer. And we were also able to work with our delivery partners, which was important, to get a later pickup in order to be able to make West Coast cutoff times. And that worked out with our trading partner, UPS, who actually has two shuttles, one that goes to Madison Airport and another shuttle that goes to their Rockford, Illinois major hub, in order to make that connection. So it had to be a little creative, but they did a great job for us, and we haven't missed a step. I don't think anybody even knows it's not coming out of Phoenix anymore.
Sounds like your warehousing and operations experience is going to be put to good use at IPC, so that's good news.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're currently working on some other things. We're looking at an automation package in order to be able to put more density and more throughput in through shorter hours. Not a real labor savings, but an opportunity savings for hours. And those are the exciting things that we have, on the horizon here in short order.
Well, I want to give Todd an opportunity to jump in here and ask a question or two. He's sitting here silently absorbing all of this, but I guess the big thing I want to ask you to do and do it as scholarly or as gentlemanly as possible. We got thousands of pharmacy owners listening to my show, some of whom I guess are not IPC members. So would there be a major unique selling proposition that you would want to propose to people listening today, that you would want to invite them to look into your organization?
Yes, there's a few things. One that's, as I had mentioned, not ready for prime time, but it will be minimum viable product, as they call it in the IT world, will be available for us at our trade show on June 22nd, which is also known as Idea Share, which is a McKesson trade show. But for those who are not IPC members, and where we have a real advantage, is not only do we have our warehouse, not only do those profits get reshared with the owners, and being an owner just means you're on the IPC contract, whether it's as your own supplemental agreement that you would have directly with McKesson at a different economics than our base deal, or if you're on a participation agreement in our base deal that is not committed and you're in that, you're still a member. But what it allows you also access to is, and you may remember this from years ago, but is very still contemporary, is our Pharmacy Select contract. So Pharmacy Select is roughly a $200 million generic contract that sits below the source program for our members. So what happens is that if the source program product is either the wrong product, the wrong NDC, whatever it may happen to be, or it's not priced competitively, because sometimes the wholesalers just don't have the right horse. It happens, it's frequent, and it's part of sourcing where they don't have the correct horse. You are able to source the Pharmacy Select contract in the backup position, and it completely counts towards your GPR or GCR, which is your compliance metrics with our primary wholesaler, which is extremely, extremely valuable for our members. And so it gives them those alternatives. We have 11,000 items on that lead. Manufacturers love being on that lead, and it's a great partnership, with those manufacturers to give them opportunities to put things, because you'll have a molecule that has 5 manufacturers. Well, only 3 of them are going to be on source somewhere, or maybe even less than that if somebody wins 2 awards. So there's always somebody banging on our door to get on that program, to give that economic advantage to an independent owner. It does have a back end rebate as well, That rebate is paid directly by IPC to the member. It doesn't go through the primary wholesaler, but all those contracts are loaded and visible on their regular platform and ordering system. Comes in your regular order. You hit the do not sub button on the system, and you're able to get access to that. So that's another really, really big advantage that we tout out in the marketplace. We're also probably the most heavily involved in and a lot of people have interest in our government affairs and what we're doing out in the marketplace. And then this digital platform, which will be available, will be industry leading availability of all the tools that one will need for medical billing, for teledoc, for telepharmacy, for DSCSA, for all of that in one bundled package that's easy and concise, because it is a bear to be able to go through all of that stuff in the marketplace. It's a bear for me, and I'm an insider on a lot of that stuff at these trade shows. I can't imagine for an independent owner who's just trying to take care of his patients and take care of his family or her family, that has got to be a very stressful situation. And we've decided to take that head on. And part of having that warehouse, a lot of those IT dollars and things are expensive to do, but not having to use member money or owner money and having that funding mechanism is a really unique opportunity with IPC, and we're super excited to continue to grow with our 2,100 members. The other reason to grow is a lot of those services and products as we go to payers in the future. It's all about hotspots or heat maps or coverage. So the more coverage you're able to get, so that way as we direct patients and scripts and whatnot within the communities that come through these digital portals, that bigger footprint makes us more valuable to payers as they try to build out networks as well, because that's kind of going to be the future.
Todd, he's all yours for a minute.
Well, I know the market enough to know how competitive it is, and I know that our community pharmacies are relying on IPC to be a business partner and to deliver a common denominator and a platform and infrastructure that they can grow from. But what I get most excited about, even though the wholesale industry and the balance between generics and brands and how important that is to the basis of any community pharmacy, what makes me excited is the additional services that IPC is investing in, immunization programs, special point of care testing, 340B, medical billing, specifically getting your community pharmacy as a long-term care provider from a home care perspective, not necessarily delivering services to a nursing home, but literally going into the home and becoming a conduit of better public health. So speak to some of those additional pharmacy services that you're offering, Marc, through IPC, and how this will help to expand and grow our community pharmacies.
Certainly. So some of the biggest things that are coming down the pike is certainly when it comes to the point of care testing. So we're in the process of making sure that we have CLIA certified laboratories, so that way as people want to, obviously your point of care testing is a visual thing right there at the pharmacy. You do that with COVID, but there's a lot of tests out there that we're working on specifically and these CLIA certified laboratories. We're having an ecosystem where you can access the lab results both back to the pharmacy and to the care provider and the patient, in a HIPAA compliant type of an ecosphere, and being able to connect a lot of these dots for independence and being able to push them into the ways we need, and even having the kits available, marketed and sold right there in the pharmacy, and they'll even be potentially in a private label IPC, yet to be determined, private label or whatever we look at. But it's a matter of expanding those opportunities to be able to not only be able to provide the service, but also get paid for it as we're working for the medical billing components, getting those CPT codes and IDK-10s in there to make sure that our members can go ahead and properly bill and know how to bill for these particular products, as well as similarly with remote patient monitoring. How do you get paid for doing that? How do you, with children caregivers that may live in a different state and their mom is over here, how do you loop the family into these types of things? And those are the developments that are ongoing with what we're trying to accomplish. We're ready to, make sure that independent pharmacies have access to everything that a chain could possibly do. And we do have the breadth and depth of knowledge and capital and infrastructure at IPC to be able to do that with our 170 employees and the 2,000 members. So we're just looking at, to my earlier statement, and it wasn't my statement, I probably stole it from somewhere on LinkedIn, but it's to future-proof the pharmacy. That's truly our mantra here, and that is what we're trying to accomplish with our membership. And that was certainly the direction that the board had for me when they had asked me to step in. We've been great. This has been a very successful model. You know, where's the puck going to be, to use being Canadian, using the Wayne Gretzky analogy?
Mm-hmm.
Got to be where the puck, you got to know where the puck's going. And so that's what they're hoping that I'm going to do, and I'm hoping I'm delivering. So.
Well, you know, the challenge, optimistic statement that I would make, and I consistently hold to this, is the future of pharmacy is bright. It's just not what it was.
Right.
I just wrote an article talking about paradigms, and the paradigm for successful pharmacy when I got started in this business was fill more scripts. And I still find myself asking that question when I'm getting acquainted with somebody on a show. You know, tell me about your pharmacy. How many scripts do you fill? Mm-hmm. And that's just embedded into our mindset, and cracking that mold with remote patient monitoring. What an exciting opportunity. Combo med pharmacies. There's just nothing better is needed. Todd's interviewed people who are franchising pharmacies to get into the home healthcare business, providing the people who go into the homes. And what a better platform in the world for that business to be built on than behind a successful independent pharmacy. There's just a lot of ways to go. But the thing I'll come back to is, if that's just shot out there, and presented this way or that way or whatever, you got to be able to paint a picture of the whole thing and sit down with a guy or a gal who owns a pharmacy and say, okay, here's 25 things you can do based on who you are, what your marketplace is like, what your personality is. Here's 3 that I suggest you get started with. And then have somebody, and that's where your field reps come in, have somebody who can hold their hand or kick them in the butt and get them moving, because it's a combination of they got to make the change. It's no longer optional. The change is here, and fortunately, it's a very attractive change. You're going to get closer to your patients and be more valuable to them, and there's ways to get paid for doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what we're seeing, Bruce, is that with the change in consumer buy habits and the comfort level that people have in digital space, whether it's digital interactions or digital buying, a lot of the new and younger pharmacists, not that older pharmacists don't keep contemporary, but are maybe have some of that passion for some of that digital space. I know I'm not very great at it. My daughter still helps me with my iPad. But what I do see is that a lot of these younger pharmacists coming out of college that are into the NACP buyers ownership programs, or trying to look at new people coming into the industry. They're extremely excited about this new paradigm, to use your word, of where this could go, and how do they serve their community in a better way in terms of access to all the critical care that is lacking in some of these underserved neighborhoods or rural communities, to be the first point of contact and the most trusted professional in the space. And that's always been there. It's now just reaching out to the next generation of pharmacists, as well as the next generation of consumers, in order to how do we consolidate a lot of this. And a lot of it too, and part of what we're trying to do is understanding, and this comes from my own personal experiences of having parents that you worry about, and that how do we get them in the ecosphere where the caregiver child is able to be a part of this process and have access to this information and have access to these relationships with the primary caregiver, the primary pharmacy, and the parent. And so those are the types of things we're also working on that I think will be important to bridge that gap as we move forward.
Well, I think we're coming to the end here. I would want to just reiterate the easy way for people to find out more about IPC is to go to the internet or go to the web. Their web address is IPC, Independent Pharmacy Cooperative, just IPCRX.com. And Mark and his team will be happy to chat with you and tell you what they're doing. And I know they've got people in the field who can come by and visit with you face to face. So, Todd, any last words, or Mark, any last words? And then we'll sign off and thank everybody for listening today.
Todd? No, I think it's time to level up as a pharmacy owner. So if you are not a member of a buying group that is saturated with existing owners that can come up with ideas internally, I think of IPC as, like I said, the infrastructure for creativity. IPC has to give their members a stability to grow based on what is today. Okay. But IPC's members are going to be the creative ones to inventing the pharmacy of the future. So they're going to continue to bring services and products and ideas and digital therapeutics, pharmacogenomics, a bunch of the stuff. And when they're vetted by existing members who know if it works or not, now it gets to be marketed and pushed through the IPC. I think it's brilliant that it's a pharmacy owned buying group, because now it's almost like we get to laboratory ideas, make sure that they work, and then they're pushed out through IPC's reach, all the while sustaining and helping pharmacies to do the basics in order to stay in business. And I think that combination is what the future of pharmacy is. Think of the way this is going to look.
I absolutely agree. I think the future is absolutely bright. I wouldn't have left a successful 25-year career.
It will sound good.
Where I was, in order to bring on something that I wasn't passionate about. B, I didn't think that had sustainability, and C, was one thing that we couldn't all collectively, and even non-IPC members, just the independent pharmacy community in general, can't continue to grow and really thrive. To an earlier point that was made about independent pharmacy in the health infrastructure of the nation. It's exciting. It's going to be one that's going to continue to grow, but it does have its hurdles and challenges, as we talked about with the DIR hangover and those types of things that we need to prepare ourselves for. But we are also getting a lot of traction at the state levels and even at the federal level.
Yeah, I've already
provider status, with PBM clarity, with NADAC pricing, things that we are having an impact and we're being listened to. And that's not always in this industry, as I've been here a long time, as you all have, has not always been the case. And now we are starting to see that. And I'm excited for the future, and I'm excited to be at IPC. And thank you very much for having me on your show today. And certainly if anybody ever has any follow-up questions, if they reach out to you or not, just send them my way. I love talking to folks. You can imagine my calendar is pretty full with just meeting people all day, because I really don't do anything. I kind of just walk around and meet people. I physically don't do anything as the CEO. I kind of go around and say, how are we working on things and setting out some visions. And that's a great place to be. I'm about to go into a town hall, an all staff town hall, and share with them very much what we just shared with you. So.
Well, again, congratulations on your appointment, and I think your board has made a wonderful selection. And my motto here at Pharmacy Crossroads, and the way I typically always close off, is, hey, thanks for listening. And I'm hoping that something that was said and shared here today will inspire pharmacy owners to do more and be better. Yep. So with that, I'll say goodbye for Pharmacy Crossroads. And Todd, you can do what you need to do for This Week in Pharmacy.
Well, that's it. This has been a wonderful episode. One of the first that we've combined another extremely popular show to our community pharmacy owners. That's a sweet spot for me, because I know what it does to our public. I know what it does to our 330 million Americans that are out there, and how important their pharmacist is, seeing their pharmacist 9 times their primary care. So it's necessary. It has to thrive. It has to keep moving. And sometimes it's the only healthcare services that a community has. So champions that keep us alive and thriving, like Marc and the IPC team, are vital. So Marc, thank you so much. And as Bruce said, congratulations on your appointment. And we're going to be watching you and supporting you ongoing. I can't wait to work with the IPC team more.
I love being here, and hope to be with you again here in the future on the channel.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for listening to This Week in Pharmacy and Pharmacy Crossroads.
Thank you.